When I first moved into my lake house, I had a formal dining room and a regular dining room. So I decided to take my formal dining room and change it into a pantry. So the first thing we did was get up all the tile. Here you can see my friends helping me get that tile up so that we can get started on the room. Once we got the tile up, I had to reframe everything because as you saw in the first video, it was open to the living room. So we had to close it up. And basically it will be hidden behind my kitchen cabinets. So you'll walk in the kitchen, and here's the design that I created for the pantry. I wanted it to be kind of moody with the green. I wanted to have a lot of shelving, obviously, because it's for my pantry. And I wanted to kind of have that regal vibe. So this is where we are. First, I had to start off but with the plumbing to get the plumbing all together to make sure we could put another sink in the pantry. Then we got all the walls in, and then I started to paint it with this lovely green color. This is Black Bamboo by Bear. It's one of my favorite colors. Then once the floor got in, I was able to kind of match it up with the walls. And y'all, this green was the perfect match for these checkerboard floors. This is from Reed Tiles, the checkerboard marble floors. And I had my tile guy put these in, and y'all, perfect choice. Now, once the tile was in, it was time to get in the cabinets. So with the cabinets, I made sure to cut out any of the holes for the outlets before they were installed. And then once that was done, I had my friends help me bring the cabinets into the pantry and set them into place so that we could secure them to the wall. Now, I secured all of the uppers and the lowers to the wall using wood screws and a drill. Just making sure that we're screwing it into the studs, making sure everything is all set. Also, I am putting countertops in, so we had to make sure that we left a little bit of space for the countertops. I particularly like waiting until the countertops are in before I put things on the countertop. But because of the project and the way things were going, I had just had to kind of do this first. So for your reference, if you're doing a project, it's probably better to get the countertops and then set the cabinet on top. But you can always just use like a small little marble piece to guess where you need to put your cabinet so that they're in place. So when the countertops go in, they're exactly where they need to be. We did have quite a bit of cabinets, but since this is a pantry, I wanted to make sure that I was able to utilize a lot of the space. And then I knew that this also would break up a lot of the green on the walls. So once we got the cabinets all in here, I'm just taking my beverage coolers just to kind of see what other pieces I may have to add. Like these cabinets, I had to add some wood in the middle just for when the countertops go in to make sure it's nice and sturdy. Once I did that, it was time for paint, y'all. Now, I started off with a primer because when you prime, you want to make sure you prime your cabinets so you can have a good finish. Once I primed everything, I went back in with my paint colors. I did green on the bottom, the same color as on the walls, and then for the uppers, I decided to go with more of like a gray color. It's not really white, it's more gray. I knew the two-tone would kind of bring it all together, and then that would kind of break up a lot of the green. So here you can kind of see it's more of like a gray color, and I did this on the food cabinets, and I did this on the uppers on the back cabinet. Once I painted everything, I took down all the paper. I uncovered the floors because, of course, I had to cover my brand new floors. I didn't want to get them messed up. And then I just started adding in the final touches, my beverage fridges. I had my electrician come put in some sconce lighting, and then it was time for countertops. The countertops and the little spacing that was left, I just filled in with caulk. Then I added some floating shelves, and then I started adding in the tile, which is kind of the last part of the pantry. Here I'm using a tile called Mikado by Bedrosian's Tile. Super simple, kind of like Subway, but I love that it has varying colors. And then on the other side, I also wanted to add in some tile, but first I built a custom floating shelf. So here we're just putting in the wood for the inside of the floating shelf. Once we built that, we just covered it, encased it with wood all around so that it could kind of look like the floating shelves on the other side. This was a little longer than 24 inches, so there was no custom floating shelf, so we just decided to make our own. Once that was done, I started adding in all the doors. I took all the doors off when I was painting just because it makes it a lot easier when you're not painting in the space. So I attached all those in, all the hinges, and then added all the hardware and things like that. And here she is, my new hidden pantry in all its glory. It came out exactly how I designed it, exactly how I wanted it. And I'm super glad to call this my new pantry.